All right, 7 o'clock. We're back in open session. I've already called the roll, so we will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Next item board recognitions, we don't have any. 4.0, comments and suggestions from the public. Anybody wish to address the board tonight?
Good evening. You're stuck with me because I drive faster back from Springfield than Wiggins and Ann, who will be pulling through the door any minute. So sorry. Good evening. We're here on behalf of DEA and our School Board Relations Committee to give our most heartfelt thank you in honor of School Board Appreciation Day, which is Friday in Illinois. So thank you so much for all you do. We know this is often a thankless position and you're balancing all sorts of different perspectives, and you guys do a great job for our kids and our community, and we appreciate everything that you do and all the time that you volunteer to our district. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can tell Cindy she doesn't have to come. All right, moving on. We have anybody else wish to address the board? Was that it?
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no. Everybody leaving?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm on the sheet, am I not? Did I sign the wrong one?
That's okay. Go ahead.
Good. Oh, I signed the wrong, sorry. Deb Benke, parent in the district. It's been a minute. I don't have anything prepared because I was just going to extend the discussion that was from last month regarding introducing an additional SRO into Elk Grove, specifically for elementary school kids. My question to you to think amongst yourself is why? Why would we need one? Are you thinking because we need another liaison from the school district to the police department, or is it for security? I think it was mentioned last month that there were 0 phone calls to 911 from any of the elementary schools. So I don't think it would be a security reason to do it. And if it's for a liaison purposes, we already have Officer Friendly for that. Now, as far as security, in the junior highs, I know we're still looking for an SRO for Friendship Junior High. I want to just touch upon something that I brought up last October when we were discussing an SRO. Look into adding security personnel instead of an SRO, someone that's hourly that can assist the SROs in the building like they do the junior high. Look into what District 214 is doing and do it on a smaller scale to fit the needs of each of our junior highs. My suggestion would be 2 security personnel working in conjunction with the SRO and a 3rd to cover after school activities. So just something to think about. And on a side note, I'm glad to see that the balanced calendar will not be up for great debate this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we can move on. 5.0 Superintendent Reports. The 5.01 is the Illinois Report Card presentation.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Very happy to be here tonight to share the school report card for the 2023-24 school year. It's interesting how the process works and really just the volume of data. It takes, about 7 months for the state to really compile everything and then release it at the end of October. we would call it more of a postmortem than an update in real time, but it's a great tool to see where districts are at, and really it's the state's accountability tool, this data. So I do want to acknowledge Trish Aseni and Corey King, who always help with these pieces. They're actually presenting at a SkyCon conference these last couple of days, so they're not here tonight. Otherwise, I know they'd be sitting right behind me. So instead of going through the 107-page report that was shared a week ago Monday, we've really consolidated down to a few slides really connected to the state or the district level data versus the school and the really deep pieces that go with that. So I'm going to jump right in. So Illinois School Report Card, again, this is an annual thing released at end of October and really highlights the accountability measures for all schools and districts in the state. I learned going through the data, there are 865 districts in this data and 3,831 schools to create this data set. So when we look at our data overall, some highlights, reflections on results, we saw improvement in over 75% of the data points in the report. And of those, 64.5% actually are outperforming the state. So that's a measure that we've really been looking at the last few years and made a lot of positive ground towards that. 13 of our 14 schools received a commendable rating and one even an exemplary rating. I did want to highlight our low income and English learner pieces that we saw growth in 11 out of the 13 categories, and actually 12 of the 13 are surpassing the Illinois averages. I don't know if you're aware, when you talk about numbers, we have the 11th highest EL percentage in the state out of those 865 districts. So it's like the 98.7% of the districts in the state have a higher EL rate than us. So that's an area that we love seeing that progress to continue. Yet at the same time, we see lots of gaps, large achievement gaps across schools, ethnicity groups, demographics that we continue to work on. So let's talk about summative designation. So this is this piece that's been in place the last 5 years now. They take this data, they use it to score schools across the categories, and it results in a rating for every school in the state. There are 5 categories that you can be rated in. From exemplary, that's the top 10% scoring schools in the state. Commendable, targeted, comprehensive, and intensive. Comprehensive and intensive are the 5% lowest performing schools in the state. Targeted is any groups of 20 who fall into that 5% category, and commendable is everyone else. The categories we're rated on fall into these: academic indicators, English and math proficiency and growth, science proficiency, English learner proficiency, and then chronic absenteeism and the climate survey. So they result in all of these different scores that ultimately lead to a rating for each school. I wanted to highlight Grove Junior High. Grove Junior High this year had an overall rating of 72.54 across all those different categories. So you can see how that flows. Growth is the biggest determiner. It's worth 50% of your scores. So it's really how your kids perform from one year to the next compared to other kids. So that is a hard driver and actually drives our scores pretty well here in the district. So when we look at Grove, here's those pieces. This is the 10% is 84.4. If you're above that, you're exemplary. Grove is right there. All of these are commendable. If you're under 40, then you fall into that, those other categories. How it works is every group of 20 or more kids, you get a rating for each of those pieces. So you can see for Grove, they have 8 student groups. So then they take the data for that student group and they score it. So Grove, you can see each of those groups, I think all but 2 improved from last year. We'll just go with EL. So you can see how it flows across each of those groups, and they end up with a score of 57.87. If that was below 40, Grove would be a targeted school. And that's how the targeted piece works. So some really nice growth and improvement for Grove over this past year, especially compared to 2 years ago. These are all of our schools and how you can see the ratings, the summative designations over here, and then the subgroups that they have. Larger the school, more likely to have different subgroups. So you can see our middle school, junior highs have 8, and then we range from 1 subgroup up to 6, I think is the max at the elementary level. But each of those categories, then if you have at least 20 kids, you score each of those pieces. So that's that process, just to review it, because it's quite a driver in the state of Illinois. So let's talk about IR reading proficiency. So when we look at reflections for the year, we've seen significant growth from 2 years ago to last year, and really are closing that gap with Illinois. All 14 of our schools showed improvement. 5 of 6 grade levels showed improvement. When we look at those cohort groups of kids over time, we saw great growth. 12 of our 13 student groups improve their proficiency. So we had super positives on the growth side. Then when we start to look at the state of Illinois, that's where we're not there yet. So only 4 of our 13 student groups surpassed Illinois, and none of our grade levels have yet. So when we look at our data, you can see this is over the last 4 years. Back in 2021, we were at 21.4%. This year, we're at 36.7%. We had an 8.3 percentage point growth from 22 to 24. And over that 4 years, over 15. And you can see how that compares to the state. So really seeing some solid progress, which I think for us being in just year 1 of an ELA adoption, we're feeling pretty good about the direction and the path we're on. This is just a visual kind of representation of that piece. You can see how we've moved across these last 4 years, or 3 years technically. This is that cohort piece. So back in 2021, the 3rd graders, 14.6% were proficient. And it's not a true cohort in the sense it's all the same 3rd graders, but over time now as that group in 6th grade, it's at 43.2. So you can see how that works 4th to 7th grade, 5th to 8th grade. So we've really seen some nice laddering up progress over time. Of course, kids come in, kids move out, but in the end, really solid progress. Let's talk math. So we surpassed Illinois this year, and now are above them in regards to proficiency. We were almost there last year and quite excited to see that this year. 12 of our 14 schools and 4 or 6 grade levels improved their math proficiency. Similar, those cohort groups grew very nicely. 11 of 13 student groups improved. 8 of the 13 surpassed Illinois, and 4 of the 6th grade levels surpassed Illinois. So we're really on the move with math, and have been these last few years. You can see how that then shakes out over over that time. A 12.4% percentage point increase over that period of time compared to the state 3.2. Math has been very flat across the country and in Illinois. So we're seeing some different sets of growth. That's why we caught up to the state. Just a visual representation of that. Here are the cohort pieces. So again, pretty low numbers back in 2021, and now rising up and gaining momentum. I do have to remind myself, we've seen a lot of better growth in math, yet at the same time, our reading proficiency is much higher. So we're talking 36 versus 29 on those types of pieces. Student growth percentiles. So this is the process, as I mentioned, it's worth half that summative score, and really about how do kids do from one year to the next compared to similar groups of kids. So overall, both our reading and math are above the 50th percentile. So the way I would explain that on average, over half of our kids outperformed kids in the state. So we want to be above 50. The state says 40 to 60 is a decent number. Anything above 60 is great, but being above 50 in both reading and math is awesome. 10 of our 14 reading student growth percentiles and 5 of the 14 math improved. 9 of 13 and 5 of 13 of the student groups, and 6 of 14 reading, and all 14 math student groups outperformed the Illinois ones. So again, we're seeing that math growth. You can see how that plays out with a student growth percentile. Yes. Yes. So when we talk about, we're comparing to Illinois as a whole And then we're also comparing to all of those different student groups. So whether that's low income or and all those different pieces, but we are comparing to all of them. So basically there's 14 different student groups out there that we can compare to if and there are more groups in the state, but we don't have those numbers in all of the groups. But yes, it's across the board.
Thank you.
So these are reading student growth percentiles. And again, these are recalculated every single year based on all the kids who took at least one test prior. And the state's always going to be 50. That's how they set the standard. This is math. So 54.3% of our students outperformed other students in the state of Illinois in math.
And I just want to highlight that number decreasing, we're still growing relative to Illinois, even if, because we're above 50%.
Because we're above 50%. Yes, and that number is going to change every year. And I do believe, and I don't have the exact science around, but as our proficiency increases, it's going to be harder to have a higher level of growth from year to year.
Right. So you can think of it as a compounding effect. It's year over year above 50% shows continuous growth.
English learner results. So overall, our access results improved to the highest level of the last 4 years. 12 of 14 schools and 8 of 9 grade levels increased their exit rates. 10 of 12 student groups surpassed the Illinois exit rate for those categories. Our long-term EL rate is significantly lower than Illinois, yet at the same time, we see a lot of variance in groups. I think our highest exit rate was over 22%, and our lowest was under 4%. Across different schools. So we see a lot of differences across that piece. This is the exit rate over the last 4 years for both the district and the state. This is a visual. One thing you'll see, and I would tend to predict when you see a spike, once those students meet that expectation, they no longer take access. They're not considered EL anymore. So you'll often, they won't be in the testing pool next year. So now we're starting with a new pool. I think for us, you'll see likely a drop. I hope not. I don't want to expect that, but I think the pattern is there for that piece. And then this piece, as I mentioned, at the state level this year, 23.1% of ELs have been in the program more than 6 years. In the district, it's 5.8%. That's pretty powerful. Science, the ISA results as a district and our 8th grade results surpassed Illinois. 9 of our 14 schools improved their rates, 9 of 13 student groups. But our 5th grade group actually lost a little ground and it was flat in regards to the state level. Interesting thing about science, it's 5th and 8th grade, so it's a completely different group of kids every single year. And then even for 5th graders, they don't test again until they're in 8th grade. So there's a hard to make comparisons to that piece. Here's how those numbers look. I think, again, I think we've been working on science for a while. 3 years or 4 years ago, 40%, 40.3, now we're at 56.4. So we've seen some great improvement. Even 5th grade, as it lost a little ground, still some double-digit improvement. In 8th grade, that's pretty incredible stuff. And actually, I think Rachel pointed out to me, if we compare, this is 5th grade in 2021, which is now 60% here in 8th grade in 23-24. Nice little cohort picture. And then, again, the visual. Chronic absenteeism. So any student who misses 10% or more of the school year, excused or not, is considered a chronic absent student. As you'll see in the data, post-COVID, these numbers have gone up very much across the district, across the state, actually across the country. So everyone's working on trying to bring these numbers down. We did lower our chronic absentee levels for the 2nd year in a row. 10 of 14 schools did, 6 of 9 grade levels, 11 of 13 student groups, but those numbers are still high, 23.8%. So almost a fourth of our kids missed at least 10 days of school, and many more, beyond that piece. It's a lot of days. You can see where that compares to the state. And you can see this is kind of even though we were in COVID, the first half we were home. So there would, if you signed in, you were present. So those numbers changed a little bit during that time.
Can I ask you?
Yes.
Do like suspensions and things count for that time?
No,
Okay.
no. Good question. So here's the visual of the rates and how they've shaken out the last few years. And that's it. Kind of a zoom fast. Well, you've had the report, and I know you've gone through those pieces, and we're just trying to condense things. All of this data is available online. Anyone can access this data and dig into it. The nice part, we'll share this report as part of the board report, and the full 107-page report will be available to the community to review also. But I'm happy to take questions.
Perfect presentation. Thank you, Tom.
So faster, better. All right.
Any
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. No. I mean, these are great results. I've been watching these reports for many years with you, Tom. So
Yes, absolutely.
It's just wonderful to watch things go in such a great direction. I have two questions for you. One is a tougher one. The second one I think is an easier one. The first one is just with math kind of flattening out a little bit with the math, proficiency and growth. Are we looking at our curriculum at all? I know we have new curriculum. It's been not that new. Are we always looking to see like what we might need to supplement or just to maybe keep things going?
Yes, I would be happy to share. So when we get our benchmarking results 3 times a year, we take a look, and we meet with our math teams and our district team to look at the results and identify where we could be making some adjustments, where we need to supplement. For example, our win block. We're having conversations around, we've been doing the same thing with our elementary win for a number of years. Do we need to shift that a little bit? So we're constantly assessing where we are. In terms of our curriculum, we are part of our review process. It won't be for a couple more years where we actually enter in a review, but we are continuously looking at our data so that we're prepared to begin those conversations. At the junior high level, they're actually already in phase 1 where they're really looking into their standards, their practices, and they're evaluating that right now while they're using illustrative math, so that with junior high, it's a slightly different time frame. Next year, the second half of the year, they can begin conversations as to where are we? Do we need to look at other things, or is this working for us? But right now, they're in that deep learning phase through the lens of illustrative math. Does that help?
It does.
Okay.
It does. Yeah, just thought I would ask the question about that. And the second
I
question.
appreciate Susan taking the hard question.
Yeah, this one is just, it's probably a yes or no, but do teachers have access to this data? I know it's not very timely, but do teachers have access just to kind of, guide their instruction?
Yes, first I would say Dr. Bresnahan's State of the District presentation last week included a number of these pieces. We'll include this in the Friday update so that our staff will have access to the full report, easy access. And actually, most of our building principals go through a process of review with their staff where they'll dig into some components of the data. Not necessarily a 100-page report, but they'll dig into the data and identify positives, strengths, and areas that jump out. I would say from that, a lot of our chronic absenteeism work has come out when we start to look at these numbers, which range within student groups to be quite different. But yes, this is absolutely data that gets into the hands of staff and is used at the building level
Like
in the
per
district.
student, like if they just wanted to see where their students were at that are in the
So
classrooms
each
this
student
year?
gets a report, and that report actually goes home through the classroom teachers. So every teacher would have access to at the elementary level, would have access to that, and then homeroom teachers at the junior high. Not only a paper copy that goes home, they also have electronic access for every student.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
And then I have a quick question. What year was it when the district last scored above the Illinois state average?
It's been 10 years.
2014 on the ISAT. Yep.
Yes.
So excellent job.
Yes.
Yeah, on the ISAT
Yes.
test. So
Yes.
it is excellent to finally be above the state of Illinois and be heading the right direction.
Agree 1,000%. Of course, we always have to thank our staff, our teachers, our parents, our students, and our leaders for their work. It accumulates over time, and you can see it in this type of report.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I just kind of really quickly, this is going to sound like a silly question. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to Rupley for their commendable status, and also Forest View, who is exemplary for the second
It's 2 years in a row. Yes, correct.
So my question is kind of silly sounding, but what is the secret sauce at Forest View? Because it seems to me that they have high mobility, they've got a lot of EL students, they've got a lot of newcomers, and not all the classes are small. So what do any of you have insight on what's happening at Forest View?
I don't know that any school has a secret sauce. I'm trying to get back to that piece. What I can say, this too far. Yes. So when we look at Forest View, so one, they have 4 subgroups, which helps in a sense with some of the data when you have those pieces. I want to say what my awareness is, their growth is a very high level. So their scoring, that 50%, they're getting like all the points. So students at Forest View, compared from one year to the next, compared to like performing kids, are doing really well. That's probably the secret sauce. So where they start, they keep growing over time. At the same time, I would say, some of the demographic pieces, Forest View, I think, has our second lowest low income numbers in the district, which is always an impactful piece. And it's certainly something we can look a little deeper into. At the same time, I think we talk a lot about this is important and we want to do well. This isn't our only driver. And Forest View, I think, has done a nice job with not, hey, we're exemplary, we're better than everyone. It's like, hey, our data helped us get there. We're very happy with that, but not running around saying we're the best school in the history of the world. Yet at the same time, their data is showing the kids are making lots of positive growth, and it's a great celebration.
And I will add, because kudos. This is a moving target every year because it's capped at the top 10%. Only the top 10% of schools in Illinois can be exemplary. Not everybody can attain it, which is a flawed part of the system, but definitely kudos to them for 2 years in a row. I think what I will say, we had a second school that was less than 1 point away from exemplary status. That was actually Claremont. What I would like to acknowledge, though, that I have seen in Forest View is we have consistent staff who are in single programs, and every grade level has a consistent partner. Three partners at every grade level. And I think that makes a significant difference in how year over year you can concentrate, you can hone your craft, you can collaborate, you can really take deeper dives into the curriculum and learn it. So those are the secret sauce ingredients that we want for all of our schools. And so if we can use those as some examples of what we can learn from and create parity across all of our schools, I think that should absolutely be our goal.
Awesome. Again, thank you.
Thank you. 5.02 is done.
Yes, just extra thank you to the board on behalf of the administration and all of the staff. It is a thankless job at many times. I think the DEA said it. Volunteer positions. It is probably the most amount of hours that you will ever work in. I think we had a former board member who was asked at one of our schools, "What is the hardest job you've ever had?" And they said board member. So it is challenging. You never get the credit and recognition that you deserve. So thank you for your time, your care, being here, not just in these moments, but in all the hours and times in between to serve your community. We cannot function without our entire village, and being here as representatives of your community members is the heart of our school district. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, back to you.
All right, monthly updates. So we will jump in. I think I talk faster than Tom, so we'll see how this goes. All right. So just to recap some of our highlights of the last month across our various departments and what's happening in our schools. So we continued our Outstanding Staff Awards, which is really a partnership with DEA, Cameo, and our administrative team to let peers recognize each other in our district. So we are excited that we had our second round of awards that went out this past week, and we do that on a monthly basis and go out and get to surprise people. It's the highlight of my month for sure, and really appreciate the partnership and being able to provide some recognition for staff that go above and beyond. As Tom mentioned, we did our first ever State of the District video. So that went out to our community. I think we had over 800 views just within the first few days of it being published. Received some nice feedback from it, and just a great opportunity to shout out and celebrate a lot of things that we have reason to be proud of. And then lastly, we have our communication strategic planning that Rachel Jobski in the back over there is going to be leading and facilitating. We have a meeting scheduled with our 2 board reps. And then we have our staff representatives who will be convening so we can build our larger communication strategic plan. I think we just heard a lot from our Associate Superintendent, Tom, about all our great data. So we are preparing already for our winter benchmark that will take place in December and close in January, as well as continuing our planning for professional learning. We have our next District Institute Day, which will take place on January 6th. And that's a nice one because it's aligned with other districts in our area and District 214. So there'll be some opportunities for extended professional learning for certain groups of teachers across and outside of our district. From Business Services, you'll hear some more information later this evening, but you have access to our annual financial report, which has been prepared and shared out. And then we'll receive further presentation from our auditors next month. We are preparing to do a mid-year transportation review, which is always helpful. We look at the data, how many buses are arriving late each day, how many have had to be doubled up, so we can continue to ensure that our partner is Safeway is providing the best transportation that we can get. And then later tonight, we'll have a discussion item, as we had spoken about previously, where WOLD is proposing a long-range facility study process for the board to consider embarking on. That will be one of the major areas connected with long-term decision-making across our boundary studies that we want to look at, across our programming things. So when we talk about Forest View and what's happening there, this is going to be part of that. What's happening in some of our schools, and how do we want to create long-range plans to ensure that all of our schools get access to those opportunities. In curriculum and instruction, our kindergarten council is kicked off and well underway. We have 45 teachers and administrators that are participating in that. We're working with a consultant who's come out, visited some classrooms. We've had kindergarten teachers doing some recording of their classrooms to really dig in and talk about how do we approach our program for kindergarten at a developmentally appropriate level, as well as ensuring that we are meeting the needs of our learners that are changing each year and adapting to meet those needs. The District 214 MCMI, which is the Metro Chicago Mathematics Initiative, that is underway. They've had their first session. That is a collaborative opportunity with District 214, as well as all of its foundation districts, junior high math teachers, to come together, collaborate. Really, I think, Michelle, to your question earlier, talk about how do we continue to enhance and align so that we really see the trajectory of math from elementary through high school, and making sure they're prepared for what they will participate in after they leave our district. Varsity Tutors continues to grow and expand. We have several groups up and underway with live tutors during the school day. Virtual live tutors, and those are happening on a needs-based opportunity throughout several of our schools, and we've seen some positive opportunities through that, as well as we have the AI generated tutoring that is widely now accessible. So we hope to continue to support that and watch it grow and help be another resource for our students and our families. The dual language leadership team met, and they are really focusing in on our assessment goal this year that we've shared with the board. How do we ensure that we really understand what the metrics for success are in our dual language program? And then looking at broader tool exploration for assessments to ensure that we are truly measuring the growth of our students based on what those expectations are. Not just using iReady, but really looking at authentic assessments to measure their growth in their second language. And then, as we've talked about, we are in year 2 of our literacy implementation. We've conducted our staff surveys. We're doing some different class observations, and the team, the literacy review team, has come together to analyze that data and really talk about next steps as we progress through our year 2 goals. HR, our certified evaluations are well underway, as well as our administrative evaluations. So you can see there just the numbers of observations that are being conducted. Those are opportunities for administrators to be in classrooms and really see instruction firsthand and support our staff in ensuring that they are achieving their goals. And then our facilitators of teacher mentoring, those are new roles this year. They continue to really do a lot of outreach, not only with our new staff, but also working with our mentors to broaden those supports for those new staff. And so we're looking at how we move and enhance our mentoring from maybe the one-to-one model into something that's a little bit more effective and broad to continue to support their needs. And then as well as looking at not only for our certified teaching staff, but looking at how do we provide some mentorship, professional learning, and support for our new hires and for our ESP staff. In student services and support, we had an awesome opportunity a couple weeks ago, or last week, I believe it was, for our district PLT, where we had Dr. Doug Fisher. He is an education guru and expert in the field. He is one of the founders of our PLC Plus, which is how the organization we have partnered with to support our professional learning communities. And so he did a keynote, 2 different ones that we were able to do virtually for all staff during that district PLT to participate in and hear from him directly, which was a great opportunity. And then we concluded our final of 3 parent education opportunities. And we added on to that our additional parent safety presentation that was given. So many thanks to our team, Director Malik, as well as our Director Rachel Jobski, and our SROs and police partnerships for coming in and doing that, as well as all of our community outreach team for coordinating and ensuring that our district parents and families have those opportunities to learn about timely topics. And also a big shout out to our Education Foundation, who helps support the cost of those speakers to come in. And then their main focus of our community outreach team, we're getting to holiday time. So there will be lots of charitable opportunities and outreach events and initiatives to support our families throughout the holiday time. And last but not least, technology and innovation. Super excited about our progress at Brentwood and the construction that is happening there. As part of the new gym construction, we are really trying to look at an appropriate and effective audiovisual system. So under the leadership of Ben Gray, our PE teacher from Brentwood got to go and do a site visit, actually out in Deerfield, and see that system in place. It is pretty amazing. I think he's super psyched. The rest of our PE teachers are going to be very jealous. I think we are setting a standard, and hopefully we'll be able to provide that for all of our gyms in the near future. So excited about that work. Skyward, which is our student information system, is going to undergo a major upgrade next year. So it's called Skyward. We call it Skyward Q, but it's Skyward Cumulative. It is essential as the backbone of what we use to operate our data systems around. It is a massive undertaking. There is a lot of departments involved, a lot of impact, but we started early in the planning process, and that will take place beginning next summer. And then last but not least, the Innovation Staff Advisory Team. That is our group of staff and teachers who are coming together, again, under Ben's leadership, to really look at our devices for our students and build recommendations for the board to consider for replacing and refreshing our student devices. I think that's it. Did I forget anything? All right, a lot going on.
Any questions? If not, we can move on to the consent agenda. So we have items 6.01 through 6.07. Does anybody need anything pulled from the consent agenda? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Move seconded. Any discussion? If not, can you call the roll, please, Ms. Eddy?
Aye. Eddy, aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Sorry. Kitzinger.
Aye.
Notini.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Chesney.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We can move on to 7.0. It is the public hearing for our 2024 tax levy. Do we have to open it for vote to open it or no? Just okay.
Dr. Bresnahan, members of the board, welcome for our yearly levy discussion. Just out of transparency, the first thing we do with the newer state law, recognize our fund balance is currently at the audited numbers as of July 1, $142,899,307 for all of our funds. So a levy versus an extension. All right, so a levy again is the ask. It's what I have to ask for. You don't get it necessarily. It's a ceiling. The extension is what you receive, right? They extend it to you, which would be the county. We do have laws specifically in Cook with PTEL, property tax extension limitation. You get 5% or the lesser, plus the value of the new construction. And if you do not receive that amount, then you lose it forever or after 2 years. The other thing with PTEL is that you can do a public hearing after 5%, but we still do that anyways. EAV, that's what they call equalized assessed value of your taxable real estate in the district. And then, of course, the tax rate, which is the extension. So again, the levy is what I'm asking for. I think I did a decent kind of a comparison with my son, always asking for around $20. That was at the last board meeting. Just as a reminder, he always asked me for 5. I was giving him 20, right? So I was extending him 20, but I didn't because he didn't ask for it. So I said, ha, 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 here's your $5. If he would have asked for $30, if he would have levied for 30, I still would have given him 20. So the daily levy goes on, and it happened today for $7.50. I don't know why, but that's what he did. So here we go with the levy process. This is how it goes every year. It's an exercise for us every year. We have to have a levy. Then Cook County adds a loss percentage due to the fact that people may not pay their taxes. And at the time, the EAV for the district is not known. Once the district's EAV is known, then the levy already happened. So I already asked for something where I don't even know what one of the major variables is, but that's just part of the process. So the levy, again, it's the Board of Education's request, and the extension is what the county ends up with. They reduce it by property tax extension law, limitation law, and then they give out a rate and an extension for the community. So the estimated extension that we're projected to receive, we're looking at approximately, excluding bond and interest, $106.7 million. And with bond and interest, we're looking at almost $112 million. Additionally, Cook County has what they call an equalizer because they project their equalized assessed value of your property differently than others. So what you have to do is you have to add, it's a 10, what they do is it's 10% of your property value compared to a third in most places. So that's why they give you an equalizer, and this year's it's 3.0163%. And the CPI this year is 3.4%. So we'll explain more into that's importance later. So again, there's an inverse relationship between the tax rate and EAVs. When the tax rate goes up, it's typically because your equalized assessed value, meaning your property values went down. And then if your property values go up, then your tax rate does go down. Ultimately, you're levying for a dollar amount. It's not necessarily anything else. So that's where these calculations come into play. So for example, if you have a $200 million in an EAV, the tax rate of $5.25, which is definitely not District 59, that's approximately $10.5 million in revenues. But let's say the reassessment comes down, EAV is down 10%. Well, look what happens to the tax rate. It goes up to $5.83, which equates to actually $10,494,000. But if you round it up, it's $10,500,000. So again, you see how they depend on each other, the EAV and the tax rate. It's the same thing here. EAV went up. So now it's $220 million. As a result, the tax rate goes down, and it would be $10,494,000, rounding to $10.5 million. Our historical EAV and our tax rate, as you can see, there's an inverse relationship. This does not include bond and interest. Again, we were at what our highest point was in 2015. We were at 3.29 for the tax rate, but that's because property values were lower. One of the reasons, though, that is unique with District 59, District 59, when it comes to local property taxes, residentially, we don't rely so much on the homeowners. That's nice. Why? Well, we have the industrial park and the tech parks that continue to provide. And that's where you see almost 60% of your residential value coming from them. I'm sorry, your local value. Cook County as a whole, it's typically, if you're a household, that local value that comes into the districts or any other municipality, it's 66.5% coming from there. Whereas commercial, industrial, and the railroad is 33.5%. Again, it's a testament to what we have with the industrial and tech park. It does help out a ton. As a matter of fact, when you look at the tax rate comparison for like other districts compared to ours, our homeowners pay less than anybody else in the area. So we're at $2.91 there, and it goes all the way up to $4.74 with Wheeling. It's just, again, this includes bond and interest too. So as you've noticed that we only have one bond on the books right now that we're planning on paying off. That'll go down. As of right now, though, other districts around us have relied on bonds because they don't have the same local revenues that we have. And as a result, they're going to have to borrow. Am I going too fast? Okay, thank you. So the CPI for 2023, again, it's a history of what's going on. It was the high point at 7% and 6.5%. A lot of that is due to COVID. The federal government provided a lot of districts and businesses with COVID dollars, and as a result, people were able to spend even when the economy was slowing down. So the index of the prices went up. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So the levy timeline is like every year. We're not above 5% for asking. However, in the spirit of transparency, we still do the public hearing. It's still a right of the taxpayer to know what's going on in their district. So today is the public hearing, which is November 13th. Our next meeting, December 11th, we're going to take action on the tax levy and reduction of levies, meaning the operation and maintenance fund would be our reduction of the levy because there's no cap on it. And then we'd have to file the levy by the last Tuesday in December, which ends up being the 31st. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be here the 31st, so we'll probably get that turned in before then. Also happens to be a holiday called New Year's Eve. So your tax bill information, Cook County estimates the first tax bill at 55% of your prior year. And then they assign the remaining levy to the final bill. They reevaluate the EAV. And then you get this. So here's what our extension is from last year. Last year, it was $102,802,089. That's the extension. So that's what was given to us. All right. I levied for more than that because I wanted to make sure I collected it. If I would have asked for 100 million, what would they have given me? 100 million. So that's why the levy piece is really, really, really like, it's just an exercise. I could have levied for $200 million. They would have given me $102,802,089. It would have looked bad publicly, but I mean, it's all legal. I'm serious. It's that's what the levy is. That's the crazy part about it. So you can I could have levied for $1 billion. And then the newspaper headlines would have said, O'Connor asks for $1 billion, we'll tax you for $1 billion. And then you guys would have been like, what are you doing, Ron? And then I would have had to do this again. So the levy amount, though, we're asking for this year, the capped extension is $106 $1,783,401. Bond and interest is not leviable because that was a pledge from the school district to borrow. So now we have to pay that back. And that is not something you ask for. They just put it in your taxes, and that's that. Well, by the way, that extension, that 106 million plus, that total levy is going to be 3.87% of an increase. And we will cover it. So the proposed levy summary, we're thinking EAV right now, not in a triennial situation. TIFs, we're not looking at anything really coming off the books necessarily just yet. So it's going to be probably about a 3% change. CPI is about 3.4%. So our estimated EAV, it's almost 900 million, $24,391. So again, that has a lot to do with our tech park and industrial park. So the proposed levy is 3.87% more than the prior year's extension. If you would include the bond and interest, we're asking for 3.68% more than last year. So it actually goes, it's less. And then the tax cap reduction will be applied to operations and maintenance because again, there's a situation where it's uncapped. These assumptions, it's necessary. It's a ceiling that's being asked of it. I heard a really good quote. I ran into Dr. Bresnahan and I said, what do you think about this when she told me what it was? Well, the whole thing, she goes, hey, Ron, you got to think about this. The only constant funding for the district municipalities is your local funding. She's right. When you look at what we can get for funding, this is the tool, especially with the change in administration you're looking at right now at the federal government. Federal dollars are not a guarantee. State dollars are not a guarantee. This is our one constant. So when she said that, it resonated with me.
So
Ron, could I ask how much of the EAV is new construction?
I got to look at what I estimated. It was, let me get back to what my estimation was.
Is it significant? I just was curious.
Not necessarily, not this time around, but with some of the issues some of the situations happening now in the tech park, you're going to see that balloon up even more. We were at the TIF meeting earlier today, and they mentioned that Microsoft is doing 2 more buildings. So you have 1 down, they have 2 to go. There's a lot more that's coming on the books for us. So
it's not in a TIF. You're saying not in a TIF.
It's in the TIF, but it's not on there just yet. It's not going to be in the EAV just yet. So that's going to be interesting to see. I can see what the EAV. I have the paper. I just don't have it with me right now.
That's okay.
And then I can put it in the
but
weekly.
We expect this to just grow.
Correct.
In the next few years.
Absolutely. I think we're one of the few places we can honestly say I can't see it not going down just because of what we're relying on. So it's a good thing.
Ron, question. You mentioned we can ask up to basically we can get maximum 5% without going to the public. What are we asking for 3.8? Any reason why not asking for more, considering that we have a negotiations coming up with our unions as well as the big construction projects, and then we have the world study telling us, oh my God, we're gonna have God knows what else to spend.
All right.
So concern is, are we gonna kill all of our reserves if we don't plan ahead, including the levy?
Lucas, I don't want to kill anything, but because that was good. But what we know for a fact is that if all things assumed, all things constant, the property value is the property value. We do know it goes up by a certain percentage, which is CPI. So we know for a fact that 3.4% is what we're going to get more of. That's the only thing I truly know. So when I did the math, and we go through a lot of institutes and work with other business officials and talk this through. I added the additional almost 0.5% so that it captures any new developments or businesses that may be coming on the books that we don't know about. So we know we're only going to be entitled to at least 3.4. Again, it's like what you ask for versus what you're really going to get, right? I also, it would be easy for me to say, hey, let's just do 5. And we'll still end up getting the same amount of money. But I also, as a steward of your money, I think it's important that I should look at every variable, not just come in here and blanket it. So I could say 5%, and I could say 20%. I can say 1,000,000%. But I'm very confident that 3.87 is going to cover the dollars that we're entitled to. So it's because it's what we're asking for. Whereas anything below this, that's what we'll get. The Cook County only has as much as what they're going to give us. I just have to ask for above that amount, and I feel like that's going to cover it.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking is because my concern is we had, as you were showing, a couple of years of pretty high inflation. And so we all know that any projects, constructions is going to be a lot. Actually, I'm pretty certain it's a lot higher than the inflation numbers, the CPI, as well as any negotiations. All of that is going to play into it, right?
Yes, and you bring a great point up. That CPI number is from December of the prior year. If you guys can tell me why it's from December of the prior year, you can take my job. I have no idea. None of us really do. It's just part of the formula. Because you're right. Like overall, it could be, you look at the inflation of goods and services, consumables, whole 9 yards, contracts, construction. Those inflation numbers are totally different than what we're able to do. And that's why it's so important to maximize your levy every single year. Because if you don't, you have 2 years now under Senator Walker where you can actually reclaim that amount. However, if you try and reclaim from 2 years back and you think about it, it's like a double whammy, right? So we would have been, say I left money on the table, I only did 2% for CPI this year. And I said, I'm going to levy for 2. I get the 2%, but then I say, I want what I am owed the next year plus the 1.4. I don't know which taxpayer would be really, really happy with saying, not only are you collecting on me from this year, you're also going back additionally and adding even more. So for me, it's just the maximization of the levy at the given time is important.
Agreed.
Yeah. And it is fortunate. We are fortunate that we do have a fund balance. And this is a pivotal time where Dr. Breslin made a great point earlier. We have the Wold study. We have the boundary study. There's a lot of stuff that this board is going to have to do that is really going to impact the next 20, 30, 50 years of this district. And we need as many revenues as we can to make sure that we get things done the right way. And you have a great team that's willing to do that, but let's maximize on the funding first.
And that's the reason I'm asking to make sure that we and the public understands that, are we maximizing how much we can get?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the other piece is there's a levy loss. So the state says, well, only Cook County does this. Go figure. They say, so that 3.87, they give you a 3% levy loss, which means that, let's just say, I levied at 3.87 and it ends up being 5. They give you 3%. So it's actually like levying for 6.87. And it's just so that they can capture as many dollars as they can to ensure that if people aren't paying, that they collect what the municipality is owed. So I find that interesting, but I feel very confident, to be honest with you.
So are you basically saying if we ask for 5% or 3.8.7%, we're still going to get what we're going to get?
Correct. Yeah. And to me, this is an exercise where I don't really want to play games with saying let's just do 5%. There's got to be a rhyme or a reason to it. I would think it'd be irresponsible if I just came up here and said, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. So.
And Ron, I looked up your report that was included, I think, a couple weeks ago. And I think the assumption that you used for new construction was 15 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to answer that question, Michelle.
And then I can even pull up what the prior EAV was with the new construction, if you want to see that as well.
Just more curious about what's been happening in terms of levels of construction. And there's a lot more that I see going on right now.
Correct. Absolutely. So the tax levy, here's the rationale, and Lucas could have, he did a great job of this, Mr. Szczesny. Like, we have high inflation that's happening. We have labor shortages. There's labor costs that are coming with that, right? So, I mean, it affects everything. It's economics. We have to pay for collective bargaining agreements. All right, it's fair. There are curricular needs that continue to be needed and met for our kids. And then the facility world update is going to tie in all of the curricular needs with the facilities. And again, it's a unique position because you have to have the resources. But this is going to be a time where you don't have all the money in the world. You'd have to start thinking and planning and deciding, right? So that's the rationale for the levy being so high. Other piece is this. There were a lot of strong fiscal performances that were occurring because of the COVID-related effects in the budget. We were given money by the federal government for COVID-related, right, for dollars, and we used them. This is called ESSER. They're gone now. Also, CPPRT was inflated because businesses also received COVID dollars, so they spent it. When they were spending it, was like a kind of like a trickle down. Where now, oh my gosh, I'm collecting more money. And then the state records that and says, well, your replacement taxes are this such and such dollar amount because of how much you're generating. People aren't going to be generating that much anymore. I mean, we were up to $15-16 million in CPPRT. So when I first got here, it was $4 million. So I expect more back down to 5 to 6 that'd be planned. And then the higher interest rates, we'll see that. I don't think it doesn't matter who's in office or anything for that matter. These are all dominoes and an inflation happens. Is that it? Yep, that's it.
Any other questions for Ron? So safe to say we're asking for as much as we can get. Okay. Good. All right. Thank you. Okay, now I need a motion to open our hearing on the 2024 tax levy.
So moved.
Second.
What's the time?
Get the roll call. Okay.
Wait, I have to put a time on this
8:02.
one.
All right. Could you do a roll call vote, please?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
What?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh. All right. Zach? Aye. Eddie? Oh, aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini? Aye. Sager?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
Ask if there's any public comments.
Does anybody like to comment on the 2024 proposed tax levy? All right. All right. If not, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right.
Oh, 803. All right. Zach?
Aye.
Eddie? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini? Aye. Sager?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
All right. The public hearing is closed. We can move on to our action items.
Can I pause for one
Sure.
second? I just want to issue a correction. Thank you to my colleagues who fact checked me in the middle of this. So I want to say we preview numbers for the school report card and then they issue final numbers. So I misspoke. Claremont was very close. They were within 3 points of reaching exemplary. Friendship was actually less than 3 points from exemplary, and Ridge was less than 1 point away from exemplary. So that's 4 schools in total that were right there. And again, congratulations to all our schools because I think it's much more than just whatever your status is. It's all the other data, and I think we are showing overwhelmingly they are doing amazing things for our students. So congrats to everybody.
Okay. All right. So 8.01 is the approval of policies recommended by the ISB. So these are the press updates that we get. Okay. That we kind of read through already. So I just need a motion to adopt those.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any questions, discussion? If not, Miss Eddie can call
All
roll.
right. Zach?
Aye.
Eddie? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini? Aye. Sager?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. 8.02 is the approval of the intergovernmental agreement with District 214, and this is for sharing of data and analysis, mostly for the purposes of coordinating educational alignment. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
Is there discussion time or?
Once we motion and approve, yeah.
All right, so moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion, questions? Go
Okay, sorry. Just getting used to it. No, I just wanted to, just say again how pleased I am to see this. This is just an area I think that, articulation between our schools and the high school, is something that's been lacking to some extent. And I'm just really glad to see, if you look at the agreement, there's an exhibit that shows all the information actually going back and forth, which I think will really help to guide instruction. And I'm really pleased to see this. I know many families who have, especially in math, had students struggle in math and then struggle in their placement in high school. It took a while to find the supports. So I'm hoping this will really help. Is that a fair statement, that this will really help with placement in high school?
What I will say is that the data sharing has been happening. This was really solidifying and putting in some safeguards for that practice. But secondary to this and as separate is improved articulation and alignment with the high school and its foundation districts. So absolutely, the work of the MCMI project, as well as just opening up, collaborative conversations, our aligned institute days, all of those things are really helping move that initiative forward.
So yeah, just wanted to make that statement. Just very pleased to see this is happening.
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? If not, you can call the roll, please.
All right. Zach?
Aye.
Eddie? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini? Aye. Sager?
Aye.
And Chesney?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. 8.03, the approval of Operation Warm donation to John Jay Elementary School. Somebody want to read this one so we can get the background?
Sure, I'll make the motion. Be it resolved that on the 13th day of November 2024, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the donation from Operation Warm, Inc. to John Jay Elementary School. The donation of new winter coats has an estimated value of $9,900. Be it further resolved that the superintendent shall communicate to Operation Warm, Inc. in writing expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education, and that this donation shall be listed in the official minutes of this meeting.
I second.
Second. Any discussion, questions?
We saw all these pictures, right, of these kids getting jackets, and I just think that's amazing. So thank you so much, Operation Warm.
All right. Can we get a roll call?
Yes. Zach?
Aye.
Eddie? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini? Aye. Sager?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Yay.
All right, now the approval of the Consulate General of the Republic of Poland in Chicago donation to Claremont Elementary School. Not to Lucas.
Everybody's waiting on me. Be it resolved that on the 13th day of November 2024, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approved the donation from the Consulate General of Republic of Poland in Chicago in the amount of $1,900. This donation will be used to cover the cost of books given to all art contest participants and to cover all the cost for the performing group Laconic. Be it further resolved that the superintendent shall communicate to the Consulate General of Republic of Poland in Chicago in writing, expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education, that this donation shall be listed as the official minutes of this meeting.
I will second.
All right, any questions? If not, can we have the roll call, please?
Zach?
Aye.
Eddie? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Kitzinger?
Aye.
Notini?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
Chesney?
Absolutely aye.
All right, motion passes. Discussion items. First one is the 25-26 calendars and holidays.
Good evening. It's hard to believe 2025-26 school calendar is being discussed. There are no major changes at all with the calendar recommendation for next year, but I will quickly go through some reminders for some of our new board members. The first being that there are different sets of requirements that we have to follow. The state requires 176 student attendance days. We can have up to 4 institute days. We have to have 5 emergency days built into our calendar. That's a total calendar of 185 days for students. Of course, only 176 are in person. The certified contract, we have 2 start of year days, all of those student days. We do have 4 institutes. We have 2 conferences. That's 184 days present. There are 9 paid holidays in that bargaining agreement and 5 paid emergency days. So it's a total of 198. And then I added the ESP components. They're not required per ISBE or their current CBA, but we try to align them since those 2 groups work so closely together. I thought it would be helpful to share. You can see it's pretty similar with the extent of they have 1.5 days during conferences. They have 12 paid holidays, but the emergency days are not built in. Historically, the calendars look very similar year to year. Big changes can come sometimes during bargaining years. So if there are changes to an agreement, I would bring those to you if they were finalized. We did try to approve back-to-back calendars not too long ago, but I think about halfway through the first year, there were already changes that were outside of our control, and it really confused families when we made those updates. I've noticed most districts that tried that, elementary districts, have pulled back to 1 a year. I just share it because every now and again we're asked. And our typical process is we wait for ISBE to update any of the requirements. Then we wait for the state to release their holidays. District 214 is usually the first to show their calendar, which we wait for so we can align to it. And then we prepare a draft calendar based on the current calendar, again, with any changes that we think are needed. We gather input from leadership, the DEA. I want to thank the DEA leadership. I want to thank the instruction department, all of the departments, whether it's about report card dates, when the institute days will be, things like that. The EC leaders, because their program is so different. A lot of different people make this work. Then we have the board discussion tonight. This is moved up. Normally, I don't know if we've ever had it in November before. I think this is great. Thank you for that, because then we would like to get it approved in December. The more quickly we can get something approved, we can communicate that to our community and people can make their plans. And the one other piece of the calendar is that the board does officially vote on the last day of school. We typically do that in April once we get away from the winter months in case we have to use an emergency day. These are the holidays that the state has shared out. They're the same as this year, with the exception that there is no longer an election day holiday. We had one this year. There is not one next year. Otherwise, everything stays the same. The traditional calendar you can see right here. It's based on the 176 student days. That makes August 14th the first day for grades 1 to 8. And then the next day, August 15th, is the first day for kindergarten. We are continuing to align with 214 and neighboring districts with holidays, breaks, and institute days as much as possible. The institute days are right there, August 12th. There's that. You can kind of see it on the left. The contract allows 2 start of year days. Those are the purple ones. And then that red one is an institute day. So we really get 3 days with staff at the start of the year. Some of that is teacher time. Some of that is whole district time. But that's the difference if you're curious. We have one on October 13th, which aligns to 214, which was mentioned earlier. Some nice articulation can happen there. We have one on January 5th, and we did place one on March 17th. Again, similar to this year, it is a general primary election day. We're a polling place. It's a win-win to just have our institute day there. That puts the last day of school on June 1st. The balanced calendar is the same as the traditional with these exceptions. Their first day for grades 1st through 5th will be July 24th. Kindergarten follows the next day on the 25th. And they have one additional and one extended break. So they have an additional fall break. That's September 29 to October 10. And then their spring break is a little longer, March 23rd to April 6th. And those are the two calendars that the board will actually vote on. The board does not vote on this calendar, but this year I thought it would be important to show you. And the difference is this is not a school calendar, it's a program calendar. But this program is so substantial in our district. This is the early childhood program, which is at both the ELC and at Ridge. But their needs are a little different. And over the years, working with that staff and the leadership, this is the calendar that really works for them. The primary difference being that they have a different number of days because it's grant-based. It's not required. It's 166. Their first day is August 15th. But we have sessions. We have students in school on Wednesday afternoons. So going back to the certified agreement, we have professional development time built in. When we have early release, our teachers are working together in professional learning. So what we collaboratively came up with here, and we've done this the last few years, is we take the equivalent of all of those Wednesdays, put them together. It's 8 PD days. We spread those out over the year based on their needs. They do home visits. They do articulation programming, especially now that we're at 2 sites. So you can see the 8 days are broken out into staff institute for just EC, and then also programming. They are also aligned with our district institute days. So then when we all are learning something, they aren't missing that. I just wanted to show this. When you go to our website, even if you went today, you'll see 3 calendars, and that might seem a little odd since you're voting on 2. 2 of them are school calendars. This is technically a program calendar. And those will be the things that we'll be bringing to the board next month to vote on. If it passes, we'll get that communicated to the community as soon as possible.
Thank you. I can't tell you how happy I am to see that we showing and going through the calendar very early. I mean, in my opinion, if we can get a draft even sooner, that'd be even better. And that's just based on feedback from some parents. If you're planning vacation, you do start planning right now or even sooner. Because, the prices of travel are skyrocketing, right? And you just have to. I'm glad that we're getting ahead of it, allowing some parents to still, plan those vacations. And if there's an opportunity to say, hey, here's something just like line in the sand of what might even a year further out look like, I'm sure they would appreciate it.
The issue that comes with giving them an idea is when they book travel and then that idea does not come to become a reality.
But
we're about 2, maybe even 3 months earlier than the last couple years. So
oh yes,
I think I think we'll get really positive feedback on this, and I agree. I appreciate you allowing us to move it up a month if that works. And again, we have to wait on all those other things to come to us as well. But yes, we're moving in the right direction for people.
100%. I know there's going to be positive feedback. And when I'm saying maybe there's a different way to approach it, not the start and end days. And because yes, you're right. If somebody books a travel and it doesn't, and it ends up moving a day or 2, that's going to be a problem, right? But what are the days that we know is going to be the summer break for sure? I'm sure we can estimate whether it's going to be
Again,
June 5th or June.
I think the estimate is the prior year's calendar. That's why we don't even have you vote on the last day of school until April, because we really don't know. If we have 3 winter weather days, we won't hit our 176. So then we have to make up those 3 days. And the calendar is for families, yes, but it's also for staff. So if staff plan their vacation and they're not here, then we don't have adults for our kids. But I absolutely hear what you're saying. We have the same interest. The moment we can give an official date to our community is absolutely what we want to do. And if we can make it even earlier, great.
But it would be safe to assume, hey, if we're thinking about June 1st, with the buffer of 5 emergency days, add the 5 school days, and that would be the safe bet. Basically, that's what I'm hearing.
I think that's good advice. I won't make any assumptions on the calendar until we get board votes, but I personally would not plan anything within those emergency days. I would plan it outside of that for sure.
And we only have to, I found this out when we had those power outages at, was it 1 school or 2 schools?
2 schools.
So those days do not need to be made up because it was just an isolated. If it was the
Correct.
whole district, then it needs to be made up.
That's correct.
Right. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So to go along the pre-K theme, the program fee for typically developing preschool students. Who's got that?
So right now, currently the district does offer a 5-day program. It's $297.50 per month. We're not asking for a change, so we don't want an increase. The other piece to keep in mind is that tuition may be subsidized depending on family income. So this isn't just a hard $297.50. The district does look at additional changes to maximize the program and make sure that every kid has as much of a chance as they can to come into our schools.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. There's a statement here in our document. The district will investigate additional changes in order to maximize the preschool program to its fullest capacity. Is there any further explanation of what that means?
I mean, do you want me to? Yeah, I mean, for us at least, when it comes to the funding, if there are additional seats available, we adjust as needed so that it is more affordable if need be, so that we can actually have the seats in there for kids that they can afford it.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, how does just a new family and that only has young preschool age children, how do they find out about our program at the ELC or at Ridge?
There's a strong outreach program and initiatives that happen from the district as well as from our ELC. So they're through our community outreach as well as specifically from the ELC, partnerships with all of our outside organizations and agencies, doctors' offices, preschool programs, park districts, et cetera, that we have an obligation to do child find, which is ensuring that they are aware that we are here and that we can service them. It is always something that getting the word out is always a continuous process. I think we are always seeking out ways that we can do it better and better each year. I think ELC does a great job. I think our community outreach team does a great job, but we can never find enough.
And is there space? Is there space for more students in our ELC right now?
Yeah. So we don't really cap spaces. We have different programs available at our early learning centers. And so both at ELC and then we have our preschool for all at Ridge. So preschool for all is based on grant funding. Right now we still have some capacity, but I think we serve, it was a total, 352 students. The need for students receiving special ed services, that is not capped necessarily. It may be limited by looking at our facility spaces, but we always look to find more space to ensure that we're maximizing the number of students that we have. I think every year this statement also speaks to every year we have done more and more to expand access to early learning opportunities for students. So prior to this, we didn't offer any subsidized costs for tuition base. Prior to this, we didn't offer tuition or transportation for students. So those are two changes that we made in the last 3 years, plus expanding our preschool for all. Plus 2 years ago, we expanded to 5-day instead of just 4 days with a schedule change. So we've done some significant things to continue to increase, and we've seen quite a significant rise in the number of students that we are able to, support. I would love to see it continue to grow and grow and grow.
Are we allowed to use social media for this?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Because I just know, I remember when I was in that stage, going to the library, there was like preschool fairs, things like that. Do we attend things like that?
Yes. And, if you want an opportunity to speak, Michelle Ramsey could probably rattle off 1,000 more things that I am not doing justice to. And I know every time I check in with her, there is her and her team. Dr. Degree could speak to it as well from a special education perspective, but it is, the more we can get the word out. Our parent university is also a thing that has really expanded. We are seeing more and more students that participate in that program actually come and become students in our ELC. So that's a great opportunity that's also been added over the last few years too.
I think probably the number one thing we could do would make it all day or coincide with like the school day since it's
Mhm.
half day. But then we would need double the space, obviously. But that might go along with what we're looking at with Wold. Can I ask, was Ridge, where the kids are now at Ridge, the pre-K kids, were those rooms built with preschool in mind, or were they retrofitted?
Originally, yes, some of them. I'm not sure if it was all of them, but I believe
Yeah,
that
Ridge, housed the
had preschool
major
people.
preschool for the district dating back to the early 2000s. So a number of the classrooms, they have washrooms in there. They're built more, they're not the same as the ELC, but they are very aligned with more of a preschool classroom.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. K-8 instructional material fees, there is none, right? So we're just
Correct.
asking to continue that. Okay. Any questions? Junior high extracurricular fees. Looks like if you want to play a sport, it's $30. Do we waive that based on need, or?
No, we do not, because it
Okay.
is an extracurricular. Outside of that, we do not provide the waiver.
Okay. Questions? Paper bid summary?
It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. The price of paper from the bid increased by, it's no joke, 0.003%. So I don't know how to fit it in the budget, but we'll figure it out.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions about paper? All right. The Wold proposal for long-range facilities planning.
So we've linked this in here for you. So as we have discussed before, when Wold presented the final findings from the educational alignment studies for our 15 schools, they talked about what their next steps and services could be. So this is the proposal linked for you to see at the cost of $35,000. There is a suggested timeline there for you that they would propose to follow. It really is the next phase in taking all of the data, engaging with the community and staff and the board to prioritize and plan. And this would then be the foundation of allowing us to have conversations around our programming, such as dual language and early childhood. It would also allow us to engage simultaneously in looking at our boundaries and our demographic studies, which we are looking at different vendors to engage with us in a study for that simultaneously with this. Wold has done that in the past, and it would be mutually beneficial to have all of those things happen at the same time frame, so that we can really look at a comprehensive plan as opposed to a piecemeal or a siloed plan, which may not lead to best long range results. So what we presented this for you tonight. Our hope would be that we would get approval from the board in December, and then discuss the timeline and how you would want to go about engaging in this process with Wold.
So Wold will kind of facilitate bringing all the different pieces together and how they interact with our buildings.
Correct. Well, they would be one leg of it, but the facilitation really happens from an administrative perspective, but we would make sure that we have all of those pieces happening simultaneously through this process that they have outlined. This will be like the umbrella process for us to then insert those other pieces of data so that we look really comprehensively at a long-range plan.
So they already looked at the building. So what would Wold specifically be doing? They would be like, if we said, okay, what does it look like to add on to this building? They would then work that up, or?
Yes, that could be part of the process. The bigger part of this is really engaging with a committee or task force of representative voices to really engage in a prioritization and kind of values-based process. So you have all of the data here. But for the board to be able to decide, we're going to do what we did at Brentwood, and we're going to do it for all the buildings. You would need to know the finances. You would need to know, is that what the community values and wants? Is that the representation and input that you are getting from your stakeholder groups? Is that fit within our long range financial outlook? Does that align with our programming and priorities that we need to do for that? So they are really facilitating the conversation to start putting priorities to that align with the rest of the objectives of the district.
Okay.
Then if, let's say, hey, the group landed on this is going to be our top priority, where is that possible? Where is it possible to put, if you said top thing, full day pre-K, where is that possible? That's where Wold would step in and build out some opportunities for us to look at. Yeah, so that's kind of how that process would
So that
work.
would be, that's like what the money is going to, like if we need you
Correct.
to dive deeper on this.
Yes, and they are here and present, and they guide and actual the work aligned to the board's directives. Their representation and facilitating those conversations
So
is really what they excel at.
And then obviously our staff helps with like the programmatic stuff, so that there's no extra cost to that. And
Correct.
potentially extra cost would be, or not potentially, the only extra cost to go along with the Wold cost would be boundary.
Correct.
Okay.
And we have the most recent one was 3 years ago, but so much has changed in a short amount of time. I think the projections are just already outdated given kind of the state of our communities. And so I think having a partner with this piece while doing the boundary and demographic study, I think would really pair nicely to give you the goal is for the board to have everything you need to know in order to make long range plans and decisions for this district. Like that is, if at the end of this process, you don't have what you need to feel comfortable about a direction moving forward, then we need to get more, we need to partner, gather more data, whatever we need to do. But that would be the hope, is we're building out everything that you would need in order to go to the community and say, this is what we're prioritizing. This is the timeline for doing it. This is how much it's going to cost. And here's where we're going to be at the end of the next 5 to 10 years.
I think we'll probably need like special committee of the whole meetings, or where we can like discuss just this type of stuff. So
it is a commitment. I don't want to take this lightly. You are also engaging in other commitments that are happening simultaneously. If you wanted to delay this, that is an option. They threw out a January, I think, to October timeframe. You as a board need to feel comfortable because this is a big lift for everybody. And learning from the past, the entire board needs to be engaged and deeply committed to this work, and willing to have those open conversations, because you will be making major decisions that will impact the long-term, well-being of the district. So I don't want to present it as if, oh yeah, we're just check, in 6 months you got a plan.
Right.
That's not what this is. Really digging in and opening it up to the community. And it is a big lift from the district, from the leadership team, all of those who would serve on this committee. It is a process. It is well worth it. It can lead to really positive change, but this is a go slow to go fast moment.
So if we decide not to do it right away, is this fee gonna stay the same? Meaning if we, wait a few months?
Yeah, I
I'm
can
just
talk
thinking
to
about like elections and things are going
for
on.
sure.
There's gonna
Yeah.
be different
Yeah.
people, potentially
That
up
is
here.
that is a big consideration. So I can see how good, what our lock-in rate is. I don't think it's going to vary too significantly if it's, a delayed push to say start in May instead of starting in January. But I can definitely present that back, give that feedback back to the Wold team, and see where you go from there.
I think whenever we decide to do it, I would say sooner than later. I don't know. But I would like to have all of us heavily involved, just so we don't go down the wrong track or spend 4 months only to have to go back and start over. And so we need to commit to using this information that we've gathered.
Are there certain components we can consider even before we make this decision, like boundary studies, things like that take time? I mean, I'm thinking that will have to be done anyway. And they take time. So could we like move forward with those types of pieces?
I think that's a great point, Michelle. I think that, we started talking with, we met with a vendor today who does that work. So I think that the data alignment and having that when you do embark with this piece, I think is great. So we can front load that work that really doesn't involve anybody. It just really is them doing the actual work and analysis. I think we could definitely front load that. And our hope is that I've asked our vendors to have their proposals by December with us. So that's something that can maybe start in January.
And wasn't a boundary study done a few years ago?
Yes.
Would this be with a different vendor? Are they in the running still, whoever did it before?
Based on my professional judgment, I have not chosen to go with the former. I don't want there to be any conflict or bad blood or preconceived notions. There are other options out there. If we, vet a couple of them and find that, we hit a dead end, maybe we'll have to have that conversation. But right now we're looking at 2 different vendors that have both extensive work in the area currently that I would feel I had no preconceived notions about the last group. I believe they did good work. I don't want to exclude them because for any other reason other than the fact that I don't want to taint the process.
Anybody else? Questions, feedback? I feel like I can't see the steps, so maybe like I feel like thanks. Yeah, I mean, like to me, I think the earlier we start, the better, because by the time we come up with a plan and a final recommendation, it'll be almost this time next year, and then any construction you do is a year or 2, and so I mean, even if we start now,
And that might be just us voting, yes, we're going to start. I just don't think that the committee should be, chosen,
sure,
not knowing who might be up here.
that's fair.
Yeah, I can talk to them about what is the flexibility in their starting dates given that. And then if we lock them in and commit to it, then what is our commitment in terms of like the kickoff to it? And then if we get started on the boundary study ahead of that, I think that at least puts us in some forward progress. So I can report back in December for that.
Yeah, and I think we can, I mean, it doesn't seem like we're making I think we can all agree on the needs. So I feel like by the time elections happen and if new people come in or go or what happens, by the time we start actually making decisions, we can probably start this in February or March, not that much delayed.
I personally agree. I mean, worst case scenario, there's going to be if somebody new who comes in, they would just need to catch up on what's going on. But having the information early, it's a good thing. At the very minimum, having priorities on what we can do first.
Yeah, and I agree that, we can delay our decisions, but to make our decisions, we'll probably need feedback from the other stakeholders before, what they think the needs are and all that kind of stuff for us to consider. So, okay. So where are we at? Huh? No, and on this, are we okay approving something in December or January or? Okay. All right, good. NSSCO. So you go. No?
Yeah, so there is building needs that NSSEO is experiencing. We've been including updates from them in the board weekly. So bids did come back in lower than they had originally projected, but as member districts, the costs then get divided out amongst us based on an equation of our of the member districts. So it would be looking at an annual cost of $115,800. And I believe that's for how many years, Ron?
I believe it's 3.
Yeah.
Yep. Just to add to it, the cost actually did not change just because the bids came in $2.5 million lower, but in the long term, it will impact our future contributions. So, I mean, it's wonderful news that we are able to get it in 2.5 lower. And it is for HVAC at Kirk, which definitely requires updates. I mean, just like we're dealing with some of the issues.
Do we know what the total cost will be for the district? This is just 1 year's amount that's listed here.
It's three times.
Oh, it's the same amount times 3?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know if there was like.
Yeah, they divided it evenly across 3 years to give that total amount. Anything in excess above that 7 million will go towards other capital improvements.
All right, good. Okay, we can move on to reports of the Board of Education. I'll start with Mr. Chesney.
All right, excellent. So we actually covered a portion of what I wanted to report, the HVAC at Kirk, the NSSEO update. There's a little bit more because there's a lot happening. Just a quick update. The NSSEO is doing a strategic planning, which I believe a presentation from superintendent will be present. I can share the timeline. I'm not going to dig into details, but it will be also an opportunity for our administration to visit minor, because that's going to happen at minor school, to see what the special needs kids are actually experiencing every day. So that will be the first one. Second, HVAC we covered.
Move on.
Yes.
Okay, so as board members, are we able to go see our schools that are in the NSSEO?
Yes.
We're able to visit?
Yes, so you can coordinate through their superintendent, and they welcome
Awesome.
opportunities for.
Covered one of my
Oh,
covered
good.
one of my updates, because I actually asked the same thing. I would love for all of us to go visit those schools. Are there to serve the kids of the most need in our district. And I hate to say, they wish they were at par with what we have in our district.
Sure.
So yes, I think it would be, if anybody's interested, definitely let me know, let Mac know, superintendent at the NSSEO. They would welcome anyone coming in and visiting and talking to teachers, looking even during the school year, so we can school day, so we can see the dynamic of. Also, just to close it off, I included a couple of handouts. I'm sure everybody has. I mean, they were before the meeting. They were put on the tables just so we can support an SSEO. There is a technology sale coming out this Saturday at the Timber Ridge. We are getting some great discounts. So I mean, why not? It helps a good cause. There's a annual Thanksgiving food drive at Minor. Details also included. And of course, a holiday sale, which basically is not a sale for us. It is a sale for the kids, getting stuff that we can donate so they can then give it as gifts to their parents and their families. One last piece of update from me. A month ago, October 20th, was a month, October 26th? No, not even. Visited the NSSEO Harvest Fest, which was just a great opportunity for the NSSEO families to have a free pumpkin fest, fall fest, where they can go in, have some hot dogs, carve some pumpkins, launch some pumpkins into a lake, have overall fun and not having to, pay $30 to just get in. And Joe was there as well, so he might, report it too, but that was a great experience.
Thank you. Ms. Kitzinger?
All right, so I attended the parent education series, the last part of that. It was great. Presentation was about understanding your child's mental health needs. Lots of great information about just kind of how to understand your kids a little more in these tough times, And then they had the safety presentation from the SROs, which was great. Talked a lot about protocols. So gave a lot of good information about that. We also had the Arlington Heights Police Department represented there. They brought some flyers with explanations about some parental control apps and things like that that are good for the phones and computers. So hopefully we can get that information shared out a little bit. Also, I would like to know if we could let families know when board members are going to be at these events so that they can come beforehand. It's not really announced that we're going to be there. We're just kind of there. So if we could, I know I talked to you about this and I said I would bring it up and you told me that was fine. So here I am.
And thank you for bringing it up. Communications community tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
So I
We
know our
promise.
initial, sorry, our initial conversation, and this is my only hesitation, but something
Yeah.
for the board to consider, is that sometimes plans change, and if we've communicated it and then you end up not there, or
Mhm.
there's not board representation. Also, if it's not every event, and I don't want to create a an expectation or like some inequities across certain things. So anyways, just something happy to put out where you'll be as maybe a part of our board updates, or if whatever we can work on. I see the value and need in it. I just don't want to have some negative unintended outcomes if we do it the wrong way.
Yeah.
So that would be my
Just
only concern.
something to think about, something
Yeah.
to talk about later maybe, and discuss. So all right. Also, my daughter is part of the Girls on the Run group at Ridge. We had our 5K downtown Chicago at 63rd Street Beach. It was windy and the waves were high, but these girls, they rocked. They did so good. Everybody got a medal at the end for participating. Everybody finished. I mean, it was wonderful. My favorite thing to see in any racing event or whatever, you come up to the end and you're like exhausted and then you hear people cheering you on and it's like a smile and a push, and they would just like run to that finish line, and it was a beautiful thing to see. There was it was part of the Go Kara Run event. So there were lots of Girls on the Run groups there, and there were just anybody really. It was a free 5K, so anybody could join. But it was wonderful to see everybody do that. And I believe that is all I have. Next.
All right. So I attended the, I'm sorry, I don't know the Spanish name for it, but was it the Day of the Dead celebration? Yeah. Okay, that, yes. I did stop in at that celebration here in this building. That was a great day for kids and their families. I spent a little time in each of the craft rooms, got to meet quite a few of our staff. So that was a really, really nice day and a great event. And I also attended at least the second half of the community education event, the safety presentation. I was very impressed with the transparency. I think it was really great. Got to meet our SROs, which is really nice, and also Mr. Malik. Yep, that's about it.
I also attended the parent education series. Thank you so much to the district for putting that on. I thought it was a wonderful review of mental health and all the things our kids are kind of up against, and some great strategies for parents. And I also love the safety presentation at the end. There were 2 events at Ridge, Boo Bash, which Nicole was also at. I gave out candy dressed as pizza, no big. And I also got to read to Mrs. Murphy's adorable first grade class this month. If there are any teachers who need an additional mystery reader, please contact me. It's my literal favorite thing. I also want to plug again the Play and Learn classes that are happening at the ELC and Ridge. There are signups every single month, and it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for our kids 0 to 5 who are not currently enrolled in any type of preschool. I'm bringing my 2-year-old daughter, and Mrs. Marlene is fantastic at Ridge, and I am sure that the teachers at ELC are also wonderful, but it's a good opportunity to kind of get in even before preschool, just to experience some things in the district. So Play and Learn, look into it. It's fantastic.
This was a crazy month for me. So I'm trying to think. I don't think I ended up having, I know I was supposed to be going to a couple of the events and had some family issues. So
You don't need any. That's okay. Yeah.
But we did meet today with Dr. Ussel and myself just to go over and get some updates on our MTSS and interventions and how we can better communicate out what is actually happening and how we support students across all needs and levels.
Yes,
So
that was
appreciated
a
that
big thing.
opportunity.
Yes.
Okay, so I attended the NSSEO Harvest Fest at Sunrise Lake, where I saw Lucas, and the weather was warm enough this year that they had the paddle boats out, which is not typical for that event. So it's a great opportunity for the kids at NSSEO and their siblings and such to have a good outing. I've also been attending the Educational Foundation meetings, and they wanted to make an announcement that the mini grants are live on the website now, so staff can apply to those. There's already been 18 applications in from, I see Ben nodding his head, and those are out there, so staff look for them. They're on the website and they go out in the weekly update. Another thing they're excited about is they do these scholarships for former 59 students, and they did a presentation up here where they had 3 students. They're looking to extend that and do some more scholarships, and this time they're going to try and include students who are going into the trades, so some funds to get them training in not just a university but a different path possible. And so that's something to look forward to.
All right, I crammed today. I did a bunch of things today, so I would have something to report. I was at a 3rd grade musical with Mr. Johnson, no relation, at Bird School. They did a Veterans Day musical, which was great. I was on the insurance committee earlier today. If most exciting committee you could be a part of, if anybody's ever interested in joining. And then the whole board, we have what's called the Triple I Conference later this month, where every school district, business team, superintendents, board members meet in Chicago, and there's a lot of sessions, networking, and all that. So that'll be later this month. And then it's not approved yet, but the Des Plaines City Council has on their budget for next year approval for the SRO position at Friendship. So that should get going shortly. And I think that's it for me. Next, we have, speaking of the Triple I Conference, informational items. So 11.01, the IASB Resolutions Committee Report. So this is where the IASB works on behalf of school boards to try to affect policy. So lobby downstate for certain things, and our input will be, we as a board can say whether we support some of these things, don't support some of these things, and then Joe will represent us there and cast our votes. If you want to take it.
Yeah, sure. So it is the IASB resolutions process. Districts from around the state put forward these ideas. They go to the resolutions committee. They're reviewed. You'll see their analysis in the packet that you all have had access to. And then they sort of split that into 2 categories, which is ones that they're going to present and then ones that are not going to be presented, and they spell out why. Oftentimes it's because it's duplicating something they already have on the books. Sometimes it's for other reasons, which some of these are. And so what we have to do today is just come up with what our vote as a group should be for each of the recommended ones. And then there are 3 of the 4 that were not recommended that are going to be appealed. Appealing requires 2/3 of the group to approve the consideration of them, and then 2/3 to approve them again. So it's a really high bar to do that. I think last year we just went through and basically said, do we agree with what they recommended, sort of thing. And if somebody had an objection, we discussed it. So the first one is on dual language, and it essentially says that the seal of biliteracy should count towards dual language credit in high school. Gives schools the option of that alternative, and it was recommended to be approved. Do we all agree? Yes.
Good.
That's easy. The next one is EBF, evidence-based funding for authorized charter schools. My understanding is they use a different funding formula, and this just recommends they use the same EBF as evidence-based funding. It's basically a scoring system the state does to say whether you have enough local funds to support the needs of the students. And this would put them on the same footing as other public schools. Everybody good with that one? That was do recommend. The other one was number 3 is tax increment financing TIF accountability. There's a bunch of ideas of sort of working to give schools and other taxing authorities input into the TIF process, some oversight of TIFs and that sort of thing. Everybody good with that? Okay. All right. Faith's law. This one is to create a centralized agency for EHRs. I don't 100% understand it. It's basically a way to track employment history for all staff in the state. Is that the idea?
Yeah, so we already implement that for potential new hires. What this is asking for is to retroactively go and do it for current employees, which is why they are not recommending. Or is that the second
this is the one.
This is the one that they are
This is the
recommending.
one
Yes,
they are recommending.
and that is the one that we approved. The later one, sorry, I jumped
Yes.
ahead. The later one is for do it for current employees, which they do not recommend.
Right. This one is to create a statewide
Yes.
database for employment history review to tie into the Faith's law.
Which would be very helpful because that's what we rely on for every single hire that we have to go through.
Because essentially right now we have to kind of like piecemeal it out ourselves, and this would be like a centralized.
Yes, it's a cumbersome process.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Then there was another one for healthcare coverage to open up a state pool for health insurance for employees. This is mostly for smaller districts downstate that don't have the ability to access a very large pool like we can do, and it would let them pool together through the state. So
No issue.
pretty good with that. Okay. The other one is a polling place amendment. It essentially says that they're trying to move away from schools, but this is some schools that wanted to have the option to keep the school open if their schools were not polling places, I think is the way I read it.
I think it was so that you could not be required to use it as a polling place. Because right now the policy requires school districts to be used as polling places.
Right. There's the previous statement I thought from last year where we already adopted that for the IASB. They're already advocating that schools not be used as polling places. This one says specifically school districts should not be mandated to close on election day if none of the buildings are used as polling places.
Yes, which I think gives it.
It gives local control to the
Yes.
districts to basically say, if we're not a polling place, we want to stay open.
Yes, which I think is the response to them not allowing us to not be polling place, right? So
Yes.
the mandating election days being days off is
Right.
disruptive, and
Yes.
that's your only recourse to not be a polling place and have kids there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
it essentially makes an exception for some districts somewhere.
Yeah. So
Not
rather
us.
than having a mandated day off, now we as a district, we have a lot of our buildings used as polling places. We would build that within our calendar, which creates that local control. And therefore they can still be used, but we can be without students, which is what we are already
Which is built in.
planning for our calendar for next year. And I think this year too, for the spring. So we do institute days, so kids aren't here.
So we have everybody good with that? All right. Okay. And then there were 3 that were not recommended, but that are up for reconsideration. The first one was on cell phone usage, and it was essentially that there should be a policy required. School districts will be required to create a policy that states students may not use wireless communication devices during instructional time, except for some exceptions. And the reason it was not recommended is because it was requiring something of local boards, whereas right now we have the options to kind of make our own policies. And so we may not want to have that policy, or some other board may not. So that's why it was recommended do not adopt.
I'm for that one.
You're for that one? I kind of agree with their do not adopt. I think
I'm
local
for that one as
controls.
well.
you're for reconsideration, or you're okay with it as do not adopt?
Do not adapt.
Do not adopt? Okay, so do not adopt. Again, these have big hurdles. It's 2/3 to just get them to be taken off of this list and reconsidered. The next one was an Office of Inspector General, specifically to look at school districts and look for fraud and that sort of thing. Essentially, the committee said do not adopt because we already have a bunch of laws that do that and a whole bunch of rules to do that. So they felt it was redundant. So if everybody's okay, we'll leave that off. And then 9 was not up for reconsideration. It was not appealed. The last one was a criminal background check. This was one where it would be a criminal background check prior to submitting candidate packets for nomination or for the ballot. So the reason why they said no is because, well, if you're elected, they run a background check on you. It shouldn't be the concern was it's an extra loophole to jump through for people to apply to be candidates. And so I think that's the concern. I'm kind of do not adopt, but yeah. Okay. It gets checked after we're elected anyhow. That's it. So I got my list.
Okay, so we just have one quick thing for closed session, so I just need a motion to go into closed session for items A through F.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call please.
This was just follow the rules.
All right, Zach.
Aye.
Eddie, I. Johnson.
Aye.
Kitzinger.
Aye.
Notini.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Chesney.
Final eye.